I'm sorry to do it to you, everyone, but I must do it. Marjorie Taylor Greene, let's talk about her once again. I have made very clear that I am increasingly exhausted whenever talking about this individual person, but she seems to be in the news 15 times a day, so I do my best. She recently got into an exchange that we covered on the show with Jamal Bowman. And she is very offended. One of the parts of this that made the news was that she is very offended that people call her a white supremacist, including Jamal Bowman. And she thinks that being called a white supremacist is the same as, equivalent to, being called the N-word as a black person. Now, if you need me to explain why those two things are worlds apart, I don't know what to do with you. But obviously it's an attempt for her to both downplay the significance of the N-word and also make herself out to be the biggest victim in the world. And then a video comes out of her doing something, I'll say, to keep it vague so that you're enticed, that very much proved the argument coming from her that it's so unfair to call her a white supremacist very much wrong. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But here's an example of her doubling down after her press conference where she goes, I was so threatened by Jamal Bowman and the N-word is the same as saying white supremacist. And she doubled down with her boyfriend, Brian Glenn, during a recent podcast, her Battleground with MTG podcast on this sentiment. Then I'll get to the video I was referring to.
And I want to say this, I've already said it once. When people accuse a white person of white supremacy baselessly, and that is a baseless accusation against me. It's wrong, it's hurtful,
We'll see how baseless it is in just a second.
Insulting, and it's just like a black person being called the N-word. And I think that is wrong and hurtful and disgusting. And so I will not tolerate being called that. And I thank you for calling it out for exactly what it was. And I want to say this, I've already.
Very, very adamant about that point. Well, she posted this video of her working out, which, go working out, no problem with that. But see if you can catch a specific thing in the background, and then I'll show you, if you can't catch it, what is in the background of this shot.
Hey guys, I introduced articles of impeachment this week against 5 people that deserve it. Check out Battleground MTG, find out how we save America, and it's through impeachment.
Separate from her being a fascistic, MAGA, wacky person, also just very strange vibes in that video. But you do you, I guess. Except for whenever in the backdrop we're able to catch this. Do you see? This is from the Patriot Takes. As the Patriot Takes Twitter account highlighted, I didn't catch this when I watched the video, but it says, there is a Confederate flag cooler in Marjorie Taylor Greene's garage, workout video below, promoting her new podcast. The Republican Congresswoman claimed white supremacy accusations against her were baseless after her confrontation with Jamal Bowman. And indeed, you can tell, it's a little blurry, but you can tell that there is a Confederate flag symbol on her cooler, or all I see is a box, but I'm believing that someone has identified that as a cooler. And so, what's going on there, Marjorie? We're supposed to believe that it's baseless and offensive to call Marjorie Greene a white supremacist. And she's so horrified to be labeled that. But not only her day-to-day rhetoric aligns with that. But also, she has Confederate coolers or Confederate flags portrayed on her coolers in her garage. Little contradictory message there, Marjorie. And every time I bring up the Confederate flag and say something to the effect of portraying Confederate flags, flying Confederate flags in a setting outside of a lesson or a history session or in a museum or something where you're learning about it, actually doing it as your own celebration of that flag is only a decision you're making to align yourself with the horrible history that flag represents. People come at me still with the, oh, you clearly don't understand what the Confederacy is about then. It's about states' rights. It's about Southern heritage. It's about states' rights to do what, though? The state right to do what? Own people. Protecting the right to own people. That's what that movement was doing. That's what the Confederacy was fighting for. And so why that is an argument we still have to have, I don't know. And clearly Marjorie Greene is also on the wrong side of that debate. And she will have that on a cooler and still think it's offensive for people to identify her as aligning with the very ideology that they're calling her out for aligning with, as Jamal Bowman has accurately done. Just to close out this segment, here's a little bit more highlighting the absurdity of Marjorie Greene. This is on Alex Jones's show.
Alex, you have been a true leader. You're an original. You've always been telling the truth to the American people and making sure that they're informed on everything. And I really thank you and I commend you for standing in the face of unbelievable attacks against you. Not only you, but your family that stands behind you and your staff that works so hard in this important cause. You were right all along. This is an information war, and it's time for our side to start fighting that war and fight it in the same way that they fight us.
So there it is. We have a congresswoman who is all the things that I just walked you through and all the stories we've done about her, and also buddy with someone like Alex Jones, and she's just as unhinged as him, and she is in Congress, the United States Congress. Very, very disturbing. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Luke P. Beasley is where you can find me.